that all the individuals, that you might guide their lives, and you might fill us all with your joy this week. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. We were talking about the book of Revelation. We were talking about church history a while ago. And talked about the Apostle Paul and people not getting married. Celibacy didn't start until when? You were talking, Sharon. You were asking a question. They were talking about 600. The Catholic Church swears up and down that Saint Patrick, Saint Patrick would really have a problem with that because he was a Baptist. He was. I just talked about Valentine the other day. Valentine's Day, we talked about Valentine. But Patrick was a Baptist. Patrick was raised in a Baptist church in England. Pudens and Claudia were the successors and the originators of the churches in England and Wales. Pudens and Claudia, and they were Paul's missionaries. Okay? There were strong churches in that area, and the Irish were pretty much cannibals at one time, and they would raid different parts of England, and they captured Patrick. Patrick was a deacon's son. Patrick stayed in Ireland for quite a while before he escaped and got back to England. When he went back to England, he was under conviction by God that he ought to go back and convert these heathens. And he did. He went back. He lived to be a very, very old. They say over 100 years. He established 365 churches from his mother church in England, transplanted and built churches, 365 churches. He baptized by his own hands, some say between 100 and 120,000 people in his ministry. He ordained pastors and deacons in every church, and all the way Catholicism was sending letters and emissaries telling him to cease and desist. He had no authority, and he said, I have the authority of a New Testament church. I don't need your authority at all. Well, anyway, he established seminaries. Seminaries. Do you know what a seminary is? That's an ecclesiastical school of higher learning, and it was a college at that time. Okay? The Catholic Church said that Patrick established the first monasteries. Hogwash. That's all I got to say. He did not establish any monasteries. He established seminaries. Seminaries for people. And women and men went to those seminaries. The ministers and their wives, and the idea of celibacy was only in paganism. It never came from God at all. The Apostle Paul, when he talks about being a eunuch, some are made eunuch by other men, some are made eunuch by themselves, and some the kingdom of God, or God makes eunuchs from the very birth. The Apostle Paul was on the Sanhedrin court, was he not? The Apostle Paul was a Pharisee, was he not? The Apostle Paul was a rabbi and a master teacher. All of these things required being married and having children and raising your children in the faith. Okay? Now, the Apostle Paul, according to historical resources, when he was converted, his wife and children did not convert. And she divorced him, and they buried him in a mock burial because he had become a so-called Christian heretic. The Apostle Paul did not want to get married again. Legend and history says that he had himself castrated and made a eunuch. This was done, this happened back then. Okay? I mean, this was done all the time at that period of time. Evidently, he did not want to have to deal with his passions and the desire of woman, and he thought it would slow down his success of the kingdom in his life. So he had that done. Okay. Another thing we asked a while ago about how young women got married. You said that, Sharon, what did you say? You said that most of the boys were married by the time the Jewish.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I know today in Orthodox
Yeah.
Judaism, marriage is a rite of passage. I mean, that's going into adulthood.
Yes.
To not be married because of the command, be fruitful and multiply.
Yeah. The Jews, many girls were engaged shortly after birth. Some of them even before birth. I don't know whether you know that or not. The Mishnah talks about different things about marriage. They've got pages and pages of marriage. One thing, now, Jewish history says that Rebekah was very young when she got married to Isaac. Okay, she was still nursing her mother, or her wet nurse. She was still sucking. She was still breastfeeding when he married her. Okay, because her breastfeeding nurse went with her. Rebekah's nurse went with her. Some Jewish historians and rabbis said that she was from 3 to 7 years old. I think the most conservative group said that she was about 9. Okay? Now, the Mishnah talks about women when they got married. It says if you marry a girl before she has ever had a period in her father's home, that you will consummate the marriage if she's 6, 7 years old, 8 years old, whatever she was, 9. You will consummate the marriage, but you will let her rest and heal for 4 days before you ever reconsummate the marriage again. So this is something that happened back then. This is what happened.
So they would consummate a marriage with a little girl?
With a 7 or 8 year old child, yeah, if they're actually married. Rebekah was married to Isaac for 20 years. Back in that period of time, if she was 9 when he married her, okay, she would have been 29 when she got pregnant. Okay? That's pretty late in life for a woman to get pregnant during that period of time, isn't it? Okay? But that's, she was probably about 9 years old when she got married, and the marriage was consummated. And the Mishnah and the Talmud go way, way, way back, okay? And they both talk about stipulations, okay? And that was one of the stipulations, that if the bride that you married had never gone into puberty yet, when you consummated the marriage, you would let her alone for 4 days for her to heal. So you did not consummate the marriage again for at least 4 days. And that was the law. They provided for that. I could read that to you if you wanted me to. But that's what they did. You realize that the Hebrew world is a whole lot different than the world we live in today. And you say, many people today try to make things go into our little compartments of time and space. The rest of the world is still doing exactly what I just told you. And almost all the Muslim world, they do that. The Mormons tried to do that. They have done that. And they say it's perfectly biblical. Well, yes, it is. But we look at it as uncivilized today. But biblically, they did that. We have Rebekah, and then we have what were Jacob's wives' names? Rachel and Leah. Rachel and Leah were very young. He was in love with Rachel. Rachel was young. She was young when he was engaged to her, and he was engaged to her for 7 years, and she was still young when he married her. All right, but they gave him Leah, and according to the book of Jasher, they were twin sisters, but Leah was the older sister. All right. And, of course, there's a lot of twins in the Bible, isn't there? A lot of twins. And, yeah, the plot is thicker when you look at things like this. Is this helping you any to understand the history of the Bible? It's a different world there than it is in the world that we live in today. It's just a different world. And many people just get, I mean, that's terrible, But that's the way they live. They live that way today. We changed. Our ideas changed, not their ideas. We have a different, and I'm not saying we're wrong and they're right, or we're right or they're wrong, but that has been practiced for 4,000 years at least. Okay? That's old practice. All right, did that answer all those questions this morning? Yes.
I'm sorry. Briefly, can you explain us one more time about the perfect tense?
The perfect tense. We're going to get into that a little bit tonight. Okay? We're going to get into the perfect tense is completed action. There's two tenses in Hebrew, the perfect tense and the imperfect tense. But there's also what we call, and I was going to get into that today. Here is another book, brother. This is another one of my books that I studied when I was studying Hebrew. It is Weingreen's, J. Weingreen, A Practical Grammar for the Classical Hebrew. This is classical, this is biblical Hebrew, all right? And then another one that I've been quoting from, this is The Essentials of Biblical Hebrew by Yates and Owens. And these are books that I better hold them up to the camera because people all the time. Maybe. I'll get it up here. Essentials of Biblical Hebrew. Essentials of Biblical Hebrew. And this one is by Yates and Owens. If you want to do a little more in-depth study. A little more in-depth study. Of course, all my stuff goes back to the early ages, back in the 1970s and 60s. And this was printed by Harper and Row. If you're looking at this on camera, of course, you can put it on still or tall, and you can get all that information down there. Weingreen, J. Weingreen. This one goes back to that same period of time, back in the early ages of America, 1960s and 70s. A Practical Grammar for Classical Hebrew by J. Weingreen. And it's published by Oxford. And I am sure that this was printed in the 70s. Somewhere, 1948. 55, 59, and the latest in 1972. When I was heavy, in-depth Hebrew in 1972. How many years ago was that? I had 6 years of Hebrew and 9 years of Greek in class.
It was last century.
It was the last century, yes. It was definitely the last century. All right. Now, we have the imperfect tense and we have the perfect tense. Now, we also looked at the different stem roots of the Hebrew verb, all right? What are the stem roots? Do you remember?
One's cow.
What?
Cow.
Cal stem? Now, all of the old biblical Hebrews is not going to say qual, Q-U or Q-A-L. It's going to be K-A-L. All right? K-A-L is the way it's going to be. And most of these grammars are going to do that. All of Gesenius, I've got a big, thick Gesenius Hebrew grammar. And everything's going to be in the Cal stem. Okay? The Cal stem is a simple active. And I'm going to use the word katal, which means he killed. All right? In the simple passive, that's nifal, N-I-P-H-L. That means he was killed. And the third tense is the intensive active, and that's PL stem, and I keep telling you, he violently and brutally killed. All right? And then we have the pual, intensive passive. He was violently and brutally killed. And then we have intensive reflexive, the hithpael. Now, this isn't all of them, by the way. These are just the most common ones. I don't want to flabbergast you. Okay? I would have you a long line of stuff. He killed himself. He violently killed himself. All right? Hifil, the causative active, he caused to kill. That's Hiphil. And then Hophel, he was caused to kill. Now, there is also another thing when I talk about the verbs. We talk about while consecutive, perfect, and while consecutive, and then we talk about jusive, and we talk about cohortive. Jusive and cohortive. Jusive and cohortive. Let me get over here.
If it's okay, would you spell those two?
Jusive, Jussive. Now, I've said this. When we go to any Hebrew word and I say jusive, it's jusive in meaning and jusive in form. Okay? I'll say jusive in meaning and jusive in form. And I'll say cohortive in meaning and cohortive in form. All right? Now, the cohortive and the jusive are what we call volitative. Volitative forms of the verb. Volitative. Okay, volitative forms. What would you get out of volitative? Young lady, you are an educated college graduate.
That it was the will is involved.
Okay, volition is involved. The will is involved. Do you agree with that, Brother Roger? Mm-hmm. All right. Brother Abe, you are adept in several languages. Does the Korean have a volitative form? A volitative. Cohortive and jusive are volitative forms in Hebrew. And in Greek, the volitative form is the middle voice and the subjunctive mode. We always have a will. Always have a will. I've heard many times when it talks about the sovereignty of God, and we haven't even got into Hebrew tonight, but we're getting into some Hebrew and some theology, okay? That God ordained everything the way it was, and there probably is a way that He predestined, foreordained, and locked us in, and He chose some of us and rejected the others. I do not believe that, because the Bible does not teach that, period. We wouldn't have the jusive and cohortive in Hebrew, and we wouldn't have the middle voice, and we wouldn't have the subjunctive every time when it talks about somebody receiving Christ. God doesn't drag you. He draws you. God doesn't force you to be saved. He woos you. As simple as that. And if you don't come, it is your fault. Forever. When you leave this world, you are done. You have no more volition at that time. Of course, we know from Luke the 16th chapter that the guy in hell there, Dives in hell, he changed his mind once he hit hell. He wanted to go back and change things, at least for his family. That was a love letter from hell, you know. All right, let's look at this cohortive and jusive. There is an extension. Now, this is on page 88 in Weingreen's book. All right, Practical Grammar for Classical Hebrew. Are you interested in this, or I'm boring you to death?
No.
Brother Roger, do you get this in the other Hebrew classes?
No.
Okay, this is biblical. This is deep stuff. Okay, it's deep. All right, it's not something you're going to get in modern Hebrew and conversational Hebrew or anything else. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you split the hairs.
We're just on direct object.
Yes. Okay. It.
Yeah.
Sign of the direct object. All right. There's the extension of imperfect to express emphasis on volition or effort on the part of the one that is affirming the action of the verb. Okay? The first two verbs in the Hebrew Bible, in the book of Bereshith, are in the perfect tense. God did create the heavens, the earth, and the earth, she did become formless and void. Period. Perfect tense. That happened. That was completed action. The earth was not in the process of being formed, and the earth didn't remain that way for a while. The earth became formless and void. You can You can't argue with the Hebrew language. If you want to believe in this young earth theory and all that kind of stuff, you can do all you want to, but you better throw away your Hebrew and your Greek, because it's going to really give you a problem. In the first person, it is called cohortive, which is donated by appending the syllable he. Now, I'm not going to get into all of that. This will just, because you know what I'm talking about anyway. All right? Ordinarily imperfect, I shall keep. I shall keep. I shall be caused to keep. Okay? All right? I shall keep, or I shall be caused to keep. If it's cohortive, allow me to keep. Allow me to keep for myself. Allow us to keep for ourselves. Do you understand the volition? You see the volition. You see the volitive aspects of this form of the Hebrew verb. All right. The imperfect is also used in jussive force. In jussive force. It is also in the volitive form. It can be jussive in form and jussive in meaning. It can be cohortive in form and cohortive in meaning. I know that this is patching you up, but I don't care. I want you to understand what it means. And then when we look at it in the Bible, it's very important that you understand what it means, because there is where the world misses it. We had like, how many people? We have 6 or 8 new people today on Sunday morning. One of them came up to me after the class. He said, "You've got a lot of stuff in your head." It's like that. And then another one came back about 10 minutes later. I was already getting ready to walk out, and he said, "I got to ask you some questions." He said, "Man," he said, "does the Bible have a lot to say about theology?" You know, it does. And this is what we're talking about right now. These little bitty differences make a world of difference in a lot of things. God gave man volition. God made man sovereign like he made... God is sovereign. God made man sovereign. He made angels sovereign. He made spirits sovereign. I think he even shared it with the animal world too. Because we know that animals have souls, regardless of what anybody says. If you don't study Hebrew, animals don't have soul. If you study Hebrew, animals possess and are nephesh. They are living hayah nephesh. They are living souls. Let's go and look at this juicy force now. Let him, allow him to keep. Allow me to keep. Please allow me to keep. What does that tell you? There is personal volition. Do you see that? Now that isn't the grammar. That isn't the Hebrew grammar. Isn't that beautiful? Allow me to keep. Allow us to keep. Allow the king to judge. To judge? That's the word Dan, you know. But allow me to judge. May we judge, cohortive. Jussive, please allow us to judge. Please allow us to keep. Do you have it? You got that?
Okay. Does it change any of the nouns?
This is in the verb forms.
Okay.
This is in the verb forms. The Greek language is a gigantic, dynamic, perfect language. The Hebrew is a much more limited language, but boy, does it have action right. That's all. The Hebrew is a language of action, and the modern Hebrew so-called scholars just don't have it until they understand these things, and this only comes from biblical Hebrew. In conversational Hebrew and stuff like that, you're just not going to get into this depth. And the Bible has secrets in it. It's all, and it unfolds in these languages. It unfolds. And now the next time we see cohortive in meaning, cohortive in form, when we see jussive in meaning and jussive in form, you will know a little bit that it has got to do with a volitive action and affirmation of that verb. Okay? Brother Brother Abe, do you have volitative form in Korean? Allow me to keep, please. Let us keep. May we keep. Okay? There's where you have personal volition. Beautiful, isn't it? That's beautiful. We see that in the subjunctive. We see that in the optative forms, in the affirmation of the verbs and the tenses in Greek in the New Testament. We see that. All right. Yes.
Could you repeat one more time the qualitative form, three types?
The volitative form is cohortive and jussive. I didn't write it down, did I? Cohortive or cohortative and jussive. Jussive in form or in meaning. Jussive in meaning, cohortive in form, and cohortive in meaning. Okay? That means a lot. Now, we've studied 140 classes in the book of Genesis. And I've had a lot of people come to me after I did the whole book of Genesis. Have you studied the whole book of Genesis yet, Brother Roger? Going back and studying those classes. You can go study them online on video or audio, either way. You can do that. And they said, all the things that you have said about God forming man as he formed the dust of the ground, and he formed woman as a secondary creation and man as a primary creation and all this kind of stuff. I heard that before, and I just had to believe you, or not believe you. But in Hebrew, it's there. It's there. You can't argue with it. It's there. It's beautiful. And that is really important, isn't it? Those are two aspects that are really important. It deals with God taking woman out of man before man had sinned. And the woman does not pass on the sin nature, so we can have a virgin birth of Christ, of a virgin birth, and he has no sin nature because he has no Adamic blood in him. Only Adamic form, the fulfillment of Genesis 3:15. And what I just said so far in the last 20 or 30 minutes in the class, most of the world will not even understand. But if you've been in my classes for a little while, and I'm going to tell you something. I will tell you a big secret. I didn't understand it for 3 or 4 years after I heard it the first time. It took a long, long time. If you read The Creation of the Heavens and the Earth on my website, and if you read Christ in Creation by J. Lewis Guthrie, Dr. J. Lewis Guthrie, you will get some of this. When I heard that, he was my grandfather in the faith. When I heard that the first time, I didn't understand it at all until I could look at it from Hebrew. And then when you look at it from Hebrew, there is no doubt. There is no doubt. It's beautiful. Any other questions? Brother Abe, you got any more questions? Sharon? Pam? Brother Roger, you're going to get pretty soon where you can ask me questions that I don't know. All right, let's read Hebrew. Shabbat. Right. Yamim. Matzot. Tokilu. Ak. Bayom. Harishon. Tash Betu. Sior. Midbatikim. Ki. Kal. Okel. Chametz. We. Nik. Kreta. And actually that tau there is with a TH, actually. How many T's are there in Hebrew?
Tav, Tav, and Tet.
That's right. Actually 3. There's a hard, the Teth is the hardest one. And then the tau with a dot in the middle of it. And the softer one is a TH, which has just the tau. Okay? So we got 3 T's, actually, in Hebrew. They like T's. They like to go ta, 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 ta. And they did all different forms. It goes what part of your teeth and what part of your tongue hits the teeth and the palate. That's according to which one it is. All right? Where did I finish off? Chometz? Wini kareth, karita, ha nefesh, and ha hu. Mi Yisrael, Miom, Harishon, Ad, Yom, Hash Shi Bi'i. All right. Shabbat, 7. That's where we get a word Sabbath. Actually, that means completion. Sabbath means complete. Completion. It carries over into the Greek, Sabbaton. All right, Sabbaton. And it means that same idea in Hebrew. Sabbath, Shabbat, or Sabbath, Shabbat is what it actually is. That is a Hebraism. They have to borrow that name or that word from Hebrew to bring it into Greek. It's a Hebraism. We're teaching the book of Revelation on Sunday morning. The book of Revelation is constantly full of Hebraism, Brother Roger.
So would you say Revelation in Greek, please?
Revelation, Apocalypsis, Esu Chrisou.
She wanted to know.
All right. Apocalypsis tu Chrisou. The uncovering of the Jesus Christ. Or Jesus Christ, Esu Chrisou. All right. That's what I'm doing on Sunday morning. You're going to have to come over here, young lady, and get some of that. 7 Yamin days, unleavened bread, matzah. Matzah. What does matzah mean, actually? Matzah. What does matzah mean? It means bread. All right. What does it mean?
It means bread with no leaven in it.
Yeah, bread with no leaven. Okay, bread with no leaven. Tokilu, you all shall keep on eating. Look at that, that's imperfect. Second person masculine plural, cal imperfect. See, there's your imperfect tense, Brother Abe. All right. You shall keep on eating. It comes from akal. See that word, akal? Aleph, kal, and lamet. That's a root. Most Hebrew words are made up with how many letter root? 3. 3-letter roots. Not all of them, but most of them. All right? And then we have ak. Surely and absolutely. And if you look down there, that's on page 36 in Brown, Driver, and Briggs. Okay? Page 36. And where are my books? Hiding over there. All right. I brought them tonight. You shall keep on destroying, all right? You shall keep on eating, surely. And in day the first, ye shall keep on destroying, or removing. Second person, masculine, plural, hiphel, imperfect. You shall keep on removing or destroying leaven. Now, what does that hiphel mean? Remember what that hiphel stem means? What's hiphel mean?
With energy.
Yeah. Wrong one. Let's go back and look at that for just a moment.
Which is funny because by tradition now they use a feather and a dustpan.
Yeah. All right. Now, here we have, ye shall keep on destroying and removing. Second person masculine, hiphel. And the hiphel stem, the hiphel, all right, is the causative active. You shall cause, all right, you shall cause. The hiphel, you shall cause to keep on destroying and removing. You shall cause that. That's a causative. That's what we call the causative active, Hiphil. From your houses. Look at that. Me batikem. From your houses. That's possessive. That's in the genitive case. We have a preposition on the front of that. That comes from man. It's a shortened form. So we have a complex Hebrew word here, don't we? A complex Hebrew. Am I getting too deep in this stuff for you tonight? Boring you to death? The worst form of death is dragging, and I'm going to tell you something. Hebrew grammar and Greek grammar is a really torturous. So I know that, and I know it, and I can communicate it, but I just don't want to founder you with too much of it at one time. Because all eating. Now that's masculine singular cal participle. All eating. Unleavened. All right. He shall have become cut off. He shall have become cut off. Look at this now. Third person feminine. Singular. Nephal. Wow. Consecutive perfect. What does wow consecutive perfect mean there? Wow consecutive perfect. What does that mean? Perfect tense means what? Completed. All right. Now God is speaking this as if as if it already happened. This is what's going to happen, and it will be as sure as shooting. I mean, this is a surety now, because he said it will surely happen. Ak up there. Now, he or she shall become cut off. Third person feminine singular. Nephal. Wow consecutive perfect. And why is it calling it she? Why is this feminine? Why is it feminine? Feminine gender. Nephish, soul, is feminine. All right, there you are. The soul, your soul shall be cut off. That's the most important part of you. Your soul. That's that thing which is in your body is not eternal, is it? Because it's corrupt. But your soul is eternal. You worry who can throw your soul into the lake of fire forever. The soul, she shall be cut off, that, from Israel, from the day the first until the day the seventh. All right. We did get one verse tonight, didn't we, so far? 12 and 16. You vayom, harishon, mikra, gadesh, you bayom, ha-shavi, mikra, godash, yeh, lakem, call, milaka, lo, yaseh, bohem, ak, asher, ye akel, likal, nephish, hu, liva, dido, livado, ye aseh, lakem. And during the day, the first, or during that day, we have a wow on the front of that. That's your conjunction. We have a beth there. That's your preposition. We have a compound word. All right. In the days. All right. And during the days, the first. All right. The first. In that word first there is the word rosh. Rosh is the root of that, and you can look that up on page 911. Rosh. Rosh means what? Head. Literally, head. And the resh, the Hebrew resh, it means what? What does that mean? What does that, in Hebrew, the idea is what? The back of the head. The back of the head. Okay. So that's how we get all of this. This is how it forms. And the Hebrew is a very archaic language, and you have to go back and learn that alphabet and learn what those words mean. All right? Learn what those words mean. What does Beth mean?
House.
House. All right? That's got the idea of house. Dalet.
Door.
Door.
Yeah.
Doorpost. All right. All of this. These all mean something. And Resh means the back of the head. And Rosh means head. And it means first. It means old. It means to lead. Okay? And day the seventh, Mikra, a dedication, a celebration. And then we have Kadesh here. By the way, you asked me the other day, we were looking at a word, Kodesh. That was with a cough, I believe. Here we have a Kodesh. All right? Not cough, but cough. There's cough and cough, all right? And here is that form you were asking me about. And that means holy and separated, all right? Holy and separated. What is the word in the New Testament for that? New Testament. Holy and separated. Holy, saint, and that means not of earth. Not of earth. All right? And this is a day not of earth. This is a heavenly day. Okay? Do you get this idea? This is a day for God. We bring God down to us, and we try to live that day holy as if God is in our presence. And of course, when God is in our presence, there cannot be sin in our lives. And leaven is a type of what? Sin, always. All right. Yeh, and he shall keep on becoming to you all work. All work. I should have changed that from any to all. I missed that. All right? That should be all. All work. Brother Roger helped me with this, but you were using the interlinear, and the interlinear is not exactly always correct, as we can see. And every now and then I miss a word. When I do it by myself, I won't go the wrong way. But every now and then I skip over something. Somebody might have disturbed me while I was doing it, you know. Work. Milaka. Form of action. All right? And then we have a little adverb of negation there, lo. Page 518, and I didn't write that down there either. You can write it down. That's an adverb of negation, that lo there. And not, lo, ye aseh, and not, he shall keep on being done. Third person masculine singular, nephel imperfect. Nephel again means what? The nephel stem? That's a causative, or not causative, but the simple passive. It means that he shall keep on not being. There we have the being done. Something is causing something on top of something else. You were caused to do it. Caused. There we have the word caused. All right? The nephel stem. In them, bahem. There we have a preposition with a suffix. It's on page 241, by the way, and we have this preposition with a third person plural masculine suffix. Only, I didn't write that down either, but it's in my head, so I'm telling you, so you can write that down if you want to. Only. Now we have a particle of relation, or relative particle here. What, or which, he must keep on being eaten. Now here we have third person masculine singular, nephel imperfect. Being, passive. See, it's a passive, nephel. It's like in the passive voice. Nephel stem. He must keep on being eaten to all and to every soul that alone he may keep on being done to you all. There we have lachem. Lachem. Lachem is a preposition with a second person masculine plural preposition. And if you want to write that down, it's on page 429 in Davidson's Analytical Hebrew Grammar. Davidson's Analytical Hebrew Grammar. And I better show this up on the camera. I didn't bring them over here, so I'm stepping off camera for a moment, which is not allowed, but I did it anyway. And I'm going to show you Analytical Hebrew and Chaldee Lexicon. See, we have students out there, and our students out there need to know this. The Analytical Hebrew and Chaldee Lexicon, and that is not just a lexicon, but this is an analytical lexicon. And this one here is by Davidson. Right now it's black and red, and the cover's on the modern form, and here it is right there. Right there. And of course this one had to be printed in 1970 when I was going to the seminary and taking advanced Hebrew and reading and research, which I'm teaching you right now. And let me show you Brown, Driver, and Briggs. Brown, Driver, and Briggs is a lot more common than this one. Brown, Driver, and Briggs, and it's been all taped up, as you can see, because it's falling apart. A lot of my stuff I have to put new covers on. All right. Hebrew and English Lexicon. This is the Hebrew and English Lexicon. And a Hebrew and English Lexicon is not an analytical lexicon. By William, based on the lexicon by William Gesenius, and translated by Edward Robinson. Gesenius is great. Also have Gesenius' Hebrew lexicon also. And that's it. And of course this one is done by Oxford. And I'm sure that was done in pre-printed in 1974. First edition 1907. Reprinted 53, 57, 59, 62, 66. 68, 72, and of course, I'm sure it's been printed since then, but since I'm an antique, there it is. All right. So you got that, and they've got it out there in the world, so they can look at it. All right. 12 and 17. Yushimatim et hamatzot. Ki bi etsem hayom hazeh ha siti et tisotikem me'eretz Misraim Yushar Martin Hayometh hazeh lidoratikem Hugat Olam. I like that word olam. Say olam. That's a beautiful word. It's eternity. We have eternal life now, not later. We have eternal life. And ye shall keep watch. Literally, it says you shall have kept watch. You shall have kept and guarded. That's what the word there means. You shall. It comes from shamer. Shin, Mem, and Resh.
I know that word, Shema.
You do?
To guard, because I get it mixed up with Shema all the time.
Yes. Shamer means to guard. All right? Now let's look at it and see how it actually should be translated. And ye shall have kept, watched, and guarded. That's what it is. And it is second person, masculine, plural, cal, wow, consecutive, perfect. Future perfect, in other words. It shall be completed. You shall have done this if you want to live. If your soul doesn't want to be cut off. All right? Et, sign of the direct object, unleavened bread. Because in the bone. That's really something. In the bone. That's what it literally means there. In the absolute. When you go down and you cut through all of your flesh, what do you find at the bottom of the flesh? The bone. That's the absolute source of life, is in the bone. Your bone marrow is where everything in your life is created. And the Hebrew knew that because God spoke Hebrew. All right, to these people. And it's very important. What does that say in the other? What does it say in the interlinears? What is the word for bone? Does anyone have a Bible? All right, let's see how it's translated. I'd like to see what the Amplified Bible says. Let's look at that word right there, in the bone. All right. Have you got that, Sharon, or someone? Can you? Okay. Can you?
Celebrate the feast of unleavened bread because it was on this very day that I brought you your divisions out of Egypt. Celebrate this day as a lasting ordinance for the generations to come.
On the very day, on the very root of the day, is what it means. The very root of the day. The very origin, root, foundation. That's what that word bone means. Foundation. Would you like to see somebody walking around without bones? First of all, they'd be slithering around like a worm. They wouldn't be walking, would they? Bones are, what it means there, in the bone, it means the foundation. Okay, in that very day. In the day, this. Hazeh. I had brought you out. I had brought you out. First person construct singular. Hiphel, perfect. I had caused to have you brought out. Look at that hiphel there again. Hiphel. The causative active. Hiphel. He caused. I will have caused to have you brought out. See that? I will have caused to have you brought out. Cause is in that word. I will have caused to have you bring out. I will have caused to have you brought out your armies from the land. Me eretz. Me there on the front of eretz is the preposition, and it actually comes from men. Mem and nu. None, I should say. I think manu came from Hebrew or Greek. I get my Greek and Hebrew mixed up sometimes. I'll say one word when it should be the other. Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim means what? Egypt, the land of red mud and canal banks. And ye shall have kept watch and guarded. Second person masculine plural, cow, well, consecutive first. Are you starting to get these tenses in your head? It's pretty good. You learning? Brother Abe? Is it helping you? It's what? Crashing? Crashing into your mind. Yeah. Hebrew will crash into your mind, I can guarantee you that much. And ye shall have kept guarded the day, this. For your generations, lidaraticum. Something prescribed and written. An ordinance, something, a statute. Forever, for the long duration. Remember what Gesenius said about that? This think, as far as you can think, the human mind can think, and it's way beyond that. Then this is where that's where Olam begins. As far as you can think, that's where Olam begins. That's where it begins to begin. All right. 12:18. We Elay Shemot 12:18. Ba Rishon. Ba Abba. Aser. Yom. La Kadesh. Be Erev. Tokilu. Matzat. Lots of T's in that word. Ad. Yom. Ha-ehad. We Esrim. La Kadesh. Ba'arev. In first, we have the preposition, and then we have the word rosh there. That's the root of that. In, preposition, page 88. Rosh, 911. In 4. And then it says, be arba'ah. Say arba'ah. That sounds a long word for 4, isn't it? Arabah. 10, 410, that means 14 day. And 14 is what? Multiplication of what? 2 sevens. 2 weeks. 2 sevens. Have you ever realized that the gestation period of everything in the world is made up of what? the gestation period of every animal and bird and fowl is made up of what? Sevens and multiple sevens. Sevens. Completion, completion, perfection, completion, perfection. All right? 21 days for a chicken to hatch. 28 days, I think, for a goose. All what? Multiplication of sevens. How many days for a horse and a human? 9 months. But the 9 months are made up of weeks. Weeks and weeks. According to the American Indian, when you're born, you're a year old, pretty much. Because they do not. And the Hebrew idea of conception is when you are conceived. You are a child, you are a nephesh in your mother's womb at the point of conception. Every child that is conceived will be in eternity. All of those under the age of accountability. Now, the superlapsarians don't believe this, but I do. That God is going to save every one of them babies. There aren't any of them reprobated whatsoever. Because they haven't had the chance to qualitatively make a decision in their lives because they aren't old enough. Okay. You like that? Isn't that something? Nephesh. Yeah. How many of you ever lost a child? The child was not lost. You never lost a child. That woman has never lost a child. I will say this one thing. Every Mormon, every Jehovah's Witness that ever lost a child, they won't be seeing those children anymore. Every Muslim that lost a child, all of these people won't see those children ever again. Because those children are going to go to heaven. If you believe like the Muslim world believes, you're not going to go to heaven. If you believe like the Mormon world believes, you're not going to go to heaven. If you believe like Catholicism even, if you practice Catholicism, you're not going to go to heaven. You're not going to get there because Catholicism will keep you out of heaven. All these religions, religion means the act of binding back again, but many religions bind the constituents away from God. But their children, God is going to save all of those miscarriages. They get to go to heaven. So heaven is going to be multiplied and inhabited by many more people than what we can even think about. Because all of these get to go to heaven. If they are raised, they will probably go to heaven. Sharon.
Well, I mean, I heard somewhere that people in heaven are like 30 years, because time and age and all that is totally different. They're like 30 years, they're mature. So these babies would either just zap, be mature, or actually grow up in heaven.
Well, now, according to Mormonism,
I don't want
according to Mormonism, every woman is going to have her child in heaven, and they will get, if she's resurrected. The women cannot go to heaven. Mormon women cannot go to heaven on their own, by their own merits at all. They have to be called from the grave by their husband, which has a celestial name, celestial marriage name, and they call them through the veil. And then, if the man wants her in heaven, he will take her to heaven. And then she gets, according to Mormonism, she gets to raise her children that she didn't, that if any child that died, 5 years old, 3 years old, whatever, she'll get to raise that child. But that is not biblical.
But also the Mormons say you're perpetually pregnant in heaven.
Well,
because you're creating the new souls for the new
next people, yes.
Yeah.
All of those Mormons that have gone on before, the women keep on getting pregnant by their husbands. Their idea of heaven is a Muslim idea. Mormons and Muslims are very closely twin sisters when it comes to their theology, when it talks about the feminine gender. Simple as that. La Kodesh, the new moon. It says that the translation's month, but it means new moon. Okay. The Hebrews do not go to a solar calendar, but a lunar calendar. In sunset, and ye shall keep on eating Second person masculine plural, cal imperfect. Ye shall keep on eating unleavened bread, matzot, until the day the 1 and 20. 21 days. 21 days is a multiplication of what? That's how many times, that's how many days it takes their chicken to hatch. 21 days. All right. The new moon in sunset. Ba'arev in sunset. All right, let's go to Exodus 12:19. We are making some progress. We went through 15 through 19. Shabbat. Yamim. Sior. Lo. Yamitse. Bivatikem. Ki. Called. Okel. Mach. Metzet. We nikreta. Ha nefesh. Hahu. Miadat. Yisrael. Bagar. You be Ezrak. Haaretz. All right, let's go on here now. Shabbat, 7 days. Amen. 11, not. Adverb of negation, page 518. He shall keep on eating, or she shall keep on being found. He shall keep on being found. The word matzah. You know what that matzah, see that word matzah in there? Ye matzi. That's got a lot to do with found. Unleavened bread, it means you didn't find any leaven in it. All right? And not he shall keep on being found in your houses, because all eating, masculine singular, cal participle, unleavened, or leavened that is, she shall have been cut off. Third person feminine singular, nifal, wow, consecutive perfect. The soul, the that, from the mi'adat, from the assembly. All right? Here is the word assemble, the assembly. When we have the word moed, moed is what? What's moed mean? The place of the synagogue, the place of gathering. We have a campus here where the church, Valley Baptist Church, meets. But the building, the facilities are not the church. Steve, let's go to church. No, let's go assemble is what we should really say. And this is what this word means. This is the word assembly. Assembly, ecclesia would be the Greek equivalent of this word. Ecclesia. Say ecclesia. And the Spanish word is iglesia. All right. Which comes from the Latin, which comes from the Greek. Yisrael. What does Yisrael mean?
Well, a couple things. Contend with God, wrestle.
To wrestle with God. Yeah, the man who wrestled, or a person who wrestled with God, which was Jacob. Baker. In the aliens, and in the UB Ezrak, and in the natives of the land. All right? If you got any aliens in your house, they will be cut off. Whoever, the natives and the aliens, everybody, the law is for all. The law is for all. Simple as that. 12 and verse 20. And I think we'll quit there. 12 and verse 20. Call ma mach metset. Lo tokilu be called mo oshivatikim. Tokilu matzrot. All unleavened, not ye shall keep on eating. Second person masculine plural, cal imperfect. In all your dwellings. Mo shiva tikim. In all of your houses and all of your dwellings, you all shall keep on eating. Second person masculine plural, cal imperfect, unleavened bread, $6.95. You have any other questions? You want another verse, or you want to quit right here? This enough or no? You want to get 21, or you want to just...
My head's spinning.
What?
My head's spinning.
Your head spinning?
We've done a lot.
All right, Brother Abe.
First month means September or nowadays, modern days?
All right, the times were changed. The Hebrews changed their days from was from the spring to the fall, wasn't it? All right, we went from 12:15.
They have a bunch of leap years too.
Yeah. They changed things, so you can't really plan on things being the same today as they were back then, or even the months the same. Lunar calendar is a lot more difficult than solar calendar to trace. And I think God made it that way. So they just couldn't be dogmatic. Jews like to be dogmatic, don't they? They like to be dogmatic. But God really worked them over on a lot of things. All right. Do you have any questions at all? Any comments on this? Brother Roger, it's a test tonight. What did you learn tonight?
The cohortive and the juicy are brand new to me, so that's what I'm learning.
Okay. Sharon, what did you learn tonight?
I learned I have a lot to know. To learn in the future.
All right. Okay, there is a lot to know. Pam, what did you learn tonight?
I'm going to have to look up those words. Internet, yeah, because I'm going to, look them up.
Okay. All right. Listen to the class again. That's what I can tell you. Listen to the class again. Remember what we have said, and we will review it. And that's why. Brother Abe, what did you learn tonight?
I think I want to start work specifically like grammatical, but it's very hard for me. But you gave me today the concept of Hebrewism.
Yes, the Hebraism. This morning we went into Hebraisms also, because the book of Revelation is filled with Hebraisms. If you try to read the book of Revelation like Greek, even though it's written in Greek, and it was written in Greek, it was written in Greek. It was not written in Hebrew. But it was written with a Hebrew mind. John's writings are full of Hebraisms. You cannot understand the Greek New Testament until you know Hebrew. I'll repeat that. You cannot understand the Greek New Testament until you know Hebrew. You can't really fully understand the Old Testament until you can learn the Hebrew Old Testament, until you understand Greek. Because Greek, the New Testament, is fulfillment of the Old Testament. But if you don't know Hebrew, you can't understand the Greek fulfillment of it. And unless you know Greek, you cannot understand the Old Testament either. Because you can't understand fulfillment of the Old Testament. But the Greek really nails her down. And the Hebrew really nails it down. If you understand those two basic languages, at one time in the seminary, you had to take 5 years of Greek and 5 years of Hebrew, or you didn't graduate. You would never have a degree. That was a necessity, because they said the Bible is written in Hebrew and Greek, and you don't have a handle on it until you learn Hebrew and Greek. Dr. John A. Broadus, in his Preparation and Delivery of Sermons, which was a very basic book that they studied in all seminaries at one time, says in there, any preacher that say he is called of God and will not study the languages is not worthy of his call. You're not worthy of the call unless you will take and study those languages. And any man that will stand up in a pulpit without looking into the languages and preach from the English Bible is not worthy of the calling. That's strong stuff. They weren't slackers back then. They weren't slackers whatsoever. They took the bit in their teeth and went with it. They did. And when I was coming up in the seminary, it was falling off at the very time. I think I earned the last doctorate of Bible languages, real degrees, in my period of time, because they were not emphasizing the Greek like they were. And I studied under one of the last foundation pillars of Greek and Hebrew, which was Dr. H.T. Hubbard. And he was my personal friend and my personal father in the faith. And I would not be able to do what I do today if it were not for him. And he told me that I passed him up in Greek after about 6 or 7 years. Young man, don't come with me to me with any more Greek questions. Forget it. You passed me up. Forget it. He said, you want beyond me. He said, you need to study more Hebrew. Well, I did. And I don't know whether I got him yet or not. I don't know, because he's not here anymore. He would be very proud that I'm teaching Hebrew advanced reading and research tonight, because he thought that was one of the foundations of biblical studies. And I was never as good in Hebrew as I was in Greek, but I have studied it a lot since then. When you go to the seminary, you only learn how to study. That's all. You've got a license to study when you graduate. And if you know Greek and Hebrew, and a little bit of German, and a little bit of Latin, you only have a license to learn. I've asked so many pastors, do you have Colin Delish in your library? Look it up on this page, and they look at me with a blank look. I can't read the book. I have it. If you have a book, why in the world do you have it if you don't know how to read it? Because it's written in Greek, and it's written in Hebrew with a lot of German and a lot of Latin. See, you have to learn a little bit of that. I went to one of my students' house one time a few years ago, Wally Reimer, and he had a German Bible, and we picked up the German Bible, and I started reading it to him and translating it and reading it German. He said, you can read German. I said, I had to learn to read German to read the commentaries. Now, I'm not real fluent in German by any means, but I can read German to some extent, and Russian, and Latin, with difficulty. But I can do it, because I have to. You have to learn those languages to study the real deep writings. The grammars are all written in German, almost. The Germans. Because we know that Japheth would dwell in the tents of Shem, which was Noah's prophecy. Japheth are the Germans. The pure Japhethites are Germans. And they would take the reins of the kingdom of God. Anabaptists, the word Anabaptists got their names from Wiedertäufer. Wiedertäufer means what? Rebaptizers. That's where the word Baptist came from. And there was a stronghold Baptist there. They even had to fight old Luther. They even got blamed for the Minster Rebellion, which they didn't have anything to do with it. That was one of Luther's students. Did you learn something? I try to throw everything I got at you. Please pray for me. I got to go through. I either got to wrestle with them to change my test. I have a tumor in my chest, and sometimes it's impossible for me to swallow, and it's extremely painful. And they wanted me to go in Friday, but they want me to go in at 11:30. I have dramatic, horrible hypoglycemia. I'm not going to be able to stay and not eat from 12 midnight till 11:30 the next day. I will be dead. That won't work. So I have to get them to change that. And I argued with one woman for half an hour, and I finally just gave up, put me down there, because I know that tomorrow I'm going to call them and tell them to change it. And she wasn't listening. So pray that I can get it changed, and they can get that as soon as possible. I need to do it in the morning, so not in the afternoon. The last time I went in the morning, I went into hypoglycemic shock. And that was in the morning. I sure don't want to go in there 11:30. And I told her, I said, I'll go in early in the morning and put a glucose IV in. Oh, no, we can't do that. And I said, well, then. And I kept telling her, and she just wouldn't listen. So I said, I will take care of this later. I said, forget it. Just put me down there. I'll call you back. So please pray for that. Pray for my stepson, Thomas. He's on the way back to Washington today. And I got to visit with him 2 times this last week, and I had a ball. And seeing the little grandchildren and everything else, it was really wonderful. Pray for Dakota. She's getting her little house ready for her honeymoon. That's going to take place in June the 14th. That's when she's getting married for sure this time, I think. All right. Brother Abe, you want to come up here and dismiss us in prayer? It's always good to see you in the class. Thank you so much for Sunday mornings. We really appreciate your little talks and your inspirational singing. We love that singing. That gets everybody started off.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this night. You revealed the secret word by the word to Dr. Phillips. You gave us the chance to let us open our heart and conceiving the concept of you created this world. So please give us the wisdom through the Holy Spirit. Please especially help Dr. Phillips, the healthy body and everything. And please send lots of people to this class, and we want to share the secret of your word. Please help us in Jesus' name.
Amen. We got our first video out on sermonaudio.com/DTW last week. And it was the class that I taught on a love letter from hell. And we've had a lot of response on it, lots of response. So that's really good. And that was kind of a fluke that we got it up there, but we got it. And Sermon Audio, Bill at Sermon Audio got it up there for us.
Got a question?
Yeah.
Okay, on this, because it said we followed the red dots, and there's no red dots, I'm assuming that this is